All right, folks, here we are. It's show number 3. We'll spend some time this episode in South Tel Aviv in the ancient port city of Jaffa. Then head up to Galilee, visit a few more wineries, and of course, grab some meals along the way. Stay tuned.
I'm Mike Colameco, industry insider. Been in the business my whole life, and I know what it takes to succeed. Each week, we'll take you into real kitchens, filmed in real time. Backstage passes to a day in the life of chefs, restaurateurs, and their teams. The competition's fierce. Careers, life savings, and reputations hang in the balance. These are my people, and this is their passion. And that's what's next on Mike Colameco's Real Food.
Mike Colameco's Real Food is brought to you by the continuous, generous support of the following underwriters.
Extra virgin olive oil from Colavita, an Italian family brand.
Rachel Ray's signature specialty food line, designed for preparing meals at home.
Standing on an ancient dwelling where families live. Nobody knows how many families. And the curiosity of this is we're standing on the roof. They lived underground in caves. So this is going back thousands of years. This is the Yatir forest that we're in now. But why they lived this way was as hot as it is here today, and it's probably north of 90, 95 degrees, but dry. It snows here in the winter. They grow cherries an acre from here. If you grow cherries, you need cold weather. But this is kind of like a miracle of Israeli agriculture. This Yatir forest was planted by David Ben-Gurion. It was his idea. And it looks very lush and green behind me, and indeed it is. We have vineyards, we have plantings, we have all these conifers growing. Over that hill, not very far, maybe a half a kilometer, and for many kilometers past that, it's the desert. This forest is what they built to stop the desert, and it worked. Within here now, there's a winery that's relatively new, but we also know that they've been growing grapes here like we found out up in the upper Galilee 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, before the Moors came and stopped all of the viticulture that the Israelis were doing. Because back then, the Israelis would make table grapes, shrink them down to raisins, and they drank wine because down here, it was a lot easier to drink wine than find water. Anyway, Yatir Winery is a story today. There's tons of history, and one of the remarkable things is they actually stopped the incursion of the desert, which is kind of miraculous.
We are now in the citadel of the Anim village. In the Bible time, they grow here grapes, and we came back home 2,000 years later, and we plant vineyards. In this area, it's very difficult to find fresh water. So as usual, they drink wine. Water they drink only for special occasions.
The trouble with deserts is they move. It's not just the dry, arid soil, it's the wind. The wind wicks away all the moisture, and the only way to stop that, in Ben-Gurion's mind, incorrectly, was to plant a forest.
The war against the desert was to take the desert back, because in the past, the desert came very slow into the mainland. Now you want to take it back to the border, the really border. This area is unique because it was the dream of Ben-Gurion to plant in the desert, in the mountain of Judea, the southern area of Judea, in a high place. And they prepare in the 60s, when they plant the forest, they prepare blocks to make agriculture. And we came 20 years later, and we begin to make here agriculture. And we plant a lot of variety. We make a lot of experiments to deal how to irrigate, the yield, when to harvest. And you can see here the Syrah, the Malbec, the Cabernet, the Viognier. We need time. We need time in the industry. Wine is not something that it's not tomatoes, that you do every 3 months here. We change, we are grower, we know, but here you need time.
So this is an amazing story. We're standing in the middle of what had been a synagogue in antiquity.
In the 4th century, this synagogue and this village was in very good condition. They export a lot of wine from this area to the Roman Empire. You can see the difference between the color of this marble column and the local stones, and they bring it from the North Italy. The Jewish pray to the north, to Jerusalem.
Right, so this is facing Jerusalem.
This is facing Jerusalem, to the
rabbi
north.
would have been here, the congregants here, that's Jerusalem.
Yeah.
The Moors come, no more wine, Judaism,
Yeah.
they take this building over.
Yeah, and they build here the mosque, and you can see that in this part, it was the way that they prayed to the south, to Mecca. So this is the beginning of the end of the industry of wine, the tradition.
Right.
So when we came back home, everything we have to create from scratch.
Great story. You know, it's kind of the encapsulation of history, going back 1,000 years through to today, through standing in a building. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Jacob, this is beautiful. How new is this equipment? It looks brand new.
We buy the best equipment that we can buy in Europe. We don't want to destroy or to cover our origin characters that we get the high quality from the little blocks. And we need a lot of tanks for fermentation because we want to keep the identity of each block. So we make more than 70 single vineyards. And also we use the basket press.
Yeah, that's beautiful, the basket press.
Yeah. We was the first winery in Israel that buy it because we want to press gentle.
Super gentle. Thank you, thank you. Wow, it's beautiful in here. Look at this. Concrete, big format, little format. We have Barrique, you have Burgundy.
And this is the last barn that we bring here from Bourgogne.
Thanks so much for having us in. Such a pleasure to meet and get this story. Jacob, thank you. Thank you.
I enjoy.
Continued success.
Now we're visiting the winery Or Haganuz in the northern Galilee, founded in 2005. Inside, we'll meet the winemaker, Aaron Ziv, and do a quick tasting.
All this area, actually, this is the Upper Galilee. This is from here, this is where they used to take the grapes to do the wine for the temple. At the time it was the temple. So it's written in the Gemara, it's written in all the holy books that the grapes from this part of Israel is very, very special. So this is where we built the winery. Actually, is in this the center of this area. So all the grapes that we got here in the winery, that we do the wines here, we do it only from this area.
And you've been expanding. Your growth is so strong the last 10, 15 years that you're actually doubling the size of your winery in the next year or two.
Yes. We produce now about almost 500,000 bottles now, which came very fast actually, like in about 10 years, something like that. And we're gonna move hopefully next vintage to our new winery, which will, I guess in 3 or 4 years, will double the production. This is called Elima. This wine is with no sulfite. It's a special wine with no sulfite.
Right, zero at bottling.
Actually, if you take it for testing, you will find sulfite, but the
Naturally
sulfite is coming naturally from the east. But we don't add any sulfites to it. It's pure wine, Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc.
So typical Bordeaux,
Yes,
absinthe and Merlot, and a few other things.
yes,
12, 18 months?
14 months.
I'm close.
Yeah. There is no another commercial winery in Israel that produces no sulfite wine.
It's a real risk.
Yes.
I mean, they had it for a reason for bottle stability.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Namor. This is pure 100% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Poof. Look at that color, huh?
It's aged about 24 months in barrels. Actually, it's a very, very small vineyard, which produces a very small amount of grapes, but it's one of the best vineyards in Israel.
The heat you get, the ripeness you're getting, the expression of the fruit, really reminds me of the Northern California cabs that are big. So you pour this, and I'm blind tasting, and I'm sitting with my Som friends, and I'm like, it's a Napa cab. And they're like, nah, dude, Israel. Really? Upper Galilee? Seriously? After the tasting, I walked out to the vineyard with Aaron, and I was surprised. A, it smelled like manure because they're using manure and compost. And B, they're basically practicing bio. It's completely covered with ground cover. It's kind of a wild vineyard, and that is great for the wine and great for the planet. Israel. Never been. Gadi Pelig, Bread's Bakery. Known you for 6-7 years since Bread's came.
Right.
You're my Sherpa. What are we going to see?
Mike, I'm here a lot. This is my home in some ways, my second home. New York is my first home. And everybody keeps on talking about modern Israeli cuisine, modern Middle Eastern. You've been talking to me about it. And I said, Mike, you got to come to the source to really understand it. And to go back to the source, we have to go really back in time a little bit.
We're back in Tel Aviv now, South Tel Aviv to be precise, in the ancient port city of Jaffa with my friend Gadi and his buddy, a well-known Israeli TV food journalist, Amit Aronson, to get some history and context from an insider.
That's the old port of Jaffa, which is an industrial. It's an old port where boats would come in, dock, delivery.
This is where Theodor Herzl first set foot when he came to Israel. This is where Jonah the prophet went out and got eaten by the whale. It all happened here. And
crazy.
We're in Jaffa, the old part of Tel Aviv, the old neighborhood in the south of Tel Aviv, and we are outside of Abu Hassan, or Ali Caravan, it's the official name. It's one of the most famous hummus locations in Israel. And when you say hummus in Israel, you're bound to get in a fight with someone, because when Israelis, whenever they meet each other, you have 3 questions you have to go through. It's like, where are you from in Israel? Where did you serve in the military? Because we all go to the military. And then where do you eat your hummus? It really is like that. And then usually after these 3 questions, we'll come up with something we know about each other. And this place is really one of the oldest locations selling hummus in Yafo. It was opened originally from a cart. The grandfather of the generation now running the place, the 3rd generation, just running around the old streets of Jaffa selling hummus, selling ful, which is the fava bean porridge. It's a traditional breakfast. And then about the 70s, they opened this small shop. You can see the line. It's still very, very popular, despite the fact that they commercialized. Now they have 2 more branches down the street, which are bigger, but still the logic is the same. It's always the logic with proper hummus. It's breakfast, or let's say latest, it's lunch. I mean, good hummus places aren't open for dinner. Really, a bowl of musabacha or hummus can really keep you going until dinner.
And the other thing that's hard for us to understand coming from New York is it's not a dip. This is the main event. This is the dish.
It's not a dip. It's not meant to be guacamole flavored. Right. It's not meant to be chocolate flavored. I beg your pardon, Trader Joe's. Really, I do. But it's not meant to be like that. It's supposed to be very clean. It's just the chickpeas, the tahini, olive oil, some parsley on top, maybe some cumin, maybe some paprika. But that's where it should stand. It shouldn't be sweet. It shouldn't be roasted bell peppers and all the things you guys love adding to it. It flies, but it's not necessarily
Trader Joe's
hummus.
makes a chocolate thing.
Oh yeah, they did.
Afraid so.
Oh, good. God, chocolate hummus. God bless them.
Not that bad, by the way.
So while there were a few wineries predating 1882, really the beginning of the modern era starts that year. Rothschild founded Carmel. It was an incredible story involving beneficence, the establishment of Israel, giving jobs to farmers that were exiting Europe and had no place to go due to pogroms in Russia and elsewhere. So 1882, Rothschild comes in, opens his wallet, really pours a lot of money into this industry. This is part of the original Rothschild winery. This is really where it begins in terms of the modern era.
Behind each wine there is a story, and we have grapes from all over the country, from the very south to the very north of Israel.
We found a Riesling.
A white Riesling, yeah.
Yes.
We realized in the Golan, the Galilee, one particular vineyard, the Kayumi vineyard, and this region up in the north, which has fantastic conditions for the white Rieslings, Johannesburg Riesling, and we've done really well with this. L'chaim, welcome. Right. Cheers.
Great minerality, great acid. What kind of soil type is this?
This is more like volcanic.
That's what I was thinking, like schist, like basalt.
Yeah.
Straight stainless all the way, and it must be pretty ripe. I mean, that color for a 3-4-year-old Riesling is...
2015. Yeah. This is pretty amazing, yeah. This is our wonderful Mediterranean, 2016. I call this Israel in a bottle. We've taken grapes from the Negev, from the Galilee, the Golan, Zichron Yaakov, the Judean hills. Every year it's slightly different blend. This is based on Shiraz, this particular year. But we also have Carignan, we have Petit Verdot, Petit Syrah, a little bit of Mourvedre.
Yeah, Rhone and shipping into Bordeaux.
Yeah.
What's not to like? I mean, it's one of those vin de
It's
soif.
drinkable, you know.
Really
it's,
drinkable.
It's not a kind of wine, wow, I have to leave this, it needs another couple of years.
Yeah, it doesn't need 2 hours to be decanted before it opens up.
Absolutely
It's
not.
fruit forward.
Yep.
Tannins,
That's
even
what
though
I
it's
love
French
about
oak, 2 years, the tannins are super integrated and soft.
Yeah.
To another 20
Thank you
years.
for coming. Yeah.
Okay, we're back to Tel Aviv for a rooftop tasting from a winery with roots going back 5 generations to 1870.
Roy, thanks for coming up.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a crazy day. We're on a rooftop. It's Tel Aviv. It's a hot day. We're
Sunny.
But the beach is right there. We're not going to complain. Tell me about this vineyard.
Tepperberg is 5th-generation family winery. It's been established in 1870 in the old town of Jerusalem. We have very, very special wines, and each series of the wines represent a different generation. In terms of varieties, like we have here the Inspire Femitage, the Dabuki variety, which is an indigenous variety to Israel from the back to the days of King David. They used to have Dabuki. And we have this blend, which the majority of the variety is Dabuki with a bit of Sauvignon Blanc and Gewurz. Dabuki gives us the structure and nose aroma, and the Sauvignon Blanc gives us the crisp, the acidity, and we get the aromas of the fruits from the Gewurz.
It's a great wine. In a positive way, it's like vin de soif. Really easy to drink, really delicious, super food friendly.
Super food friendly, this is what we're looking for in our wines. So it really would pair with food and not overcome the food. And I think that like raw fish, pasta, salad, Mediterranean style food would go with that just lovely.
Absolutely. You guys are a huge winery. How many? 8 million bottles?
8 million bottles.
You're one of the biggest in the country.
Third largest.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, and thank you for coming and having us.
Thank you. Thanks for making your way to the rooftop here.
Okay, back to Jaffa for lunch with Gadi in the port, right on the water.
We're literally in the port.
We're in the port.
Just the table, that's land, that's water 15 feet away, that's boats.
That's right. Eating in the port, people have been doing it for thousands of years here. This port has probably been standing here since the 12th century, right on this very spot. And this restaurant is a really unique Israeli experience.
We're in the port of Jaffa. The restaurant's called The Old Man in the Sea, like the Hemingway novel. Place is insane. It's busy. Deal with this restaurant. It's fantastic. You come in, you sit down, you look at the menu. This comes to the table, it's all free.
Hi, hello, how are you?
It's like in Koreans when you get banchan. All these vegetables, all these dishes are free on the table. And this is all really, I mean, we're noticing a theme here. All really clean.
All really
Vegetables. Hummus, vegetables. I mean, you want a clean diet, this is pretty hard to beat. Inside, they make their own pita bread. They grill. You order the proteins. Could be grilled anything. All the fish fresh. Obviously, you can't get better than this in the docks. And the volume they do here is crushing. We're talking about like Tavern on the Green numbers, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700. Apparently 3,500 people per weekend eat at this place.
This is a factory, man. They are moving thousands of people through here every single day, and it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, they got a guy making pita. I mean, literally he's making 1,000 of those all day long by hand, touches his hand on the wall of the oven, comes out, boom.
And you know it's fresh.
Yeah.
That pita is called lafa, and you would usually eat this food with a lafa. Everything like the hummus place we went to, like Abu Hassan, it's designed to eat with your hands. There's really no use for the fork here. So Mike, this is one of my favorite dishes on the planet. This is barbunya. It is the Greek name of the fish. In English, we would call it a red mullet. They're impossible to find in New York. I really have had a hard time finding them. They have a nutty flavor to them. They fry them, and it's usually with a little bit of a chickpea flour on it to give it that little crunch. That's how it's typically done. They are best when they are small. You want them small.
Beautiful.
They are hot and fresh. These are as delicious as they come.
Yeah, that fish was from me yesterday.
If you really want all the crunch and all the deliciousness, you eat the whole thing just like that, head and all.
This is the challenge. All right, you did it. I got to do it.
That was my Ozzy Osbourne moment on TV, biting the head off the chicken.
I got to do this too. All right, head and all, here we go. First times. Totally edible. And totally delicious.
Yeah.
As are the backbones and the pin bones.
I just want to point out again, everywhere we go, we get the Israeli salad. We've had it for breakfast, and here it is at lunch. Here they would call it an Arab salad. This is an Arab restaurant. It's the same salad, cucumbers, tomatoes. It's really the cornerstone of every meal in Israel. This is a legitimate Israeli place, but you know, it's sort of like Katz's Deli is a completely New York place. You go there today, you're probably going to be sitting next to tourists. Same thing here. This is a very Israeli place. It's legitimately good. But I bet you if we asked around all the tables around us, it's going to be people from all over the world. That's what it's become over the years. For me, this is the place that does it the best.
This is exciting, man. On the water in Jaffa.
All right, guys. I'll see you tonight.
Next stop, Tabor Winery in the Galilee, founded in 1999 by 4 families, based upon vineyards they owned and managed. These days, they produce 2 million bottles and are one of the top 10 largest wineries in Israel.
Even though the history of viticulture goes back to this region and maybe the Republic of Georgia, we kind of know that's where it started and then moved towards Europe.
Yes.
But you guys are like, it's fresh, it's new. It's like, this is like almost a brand new scene here.
You can look at the winemaking scene in 3,000 years ago, but then we had like more than 2,000 years gap, and today we are one of the most modern wine industry. I think it's exciting because now we are building it. We're doing a lot of experiments with varietals. It's so complicated, but it's so exciting because every year we learn new stuff.
I'm one of the most experimental viticulturists in Israel. I invented like 20 years ago something that we called agriculture department. Every winery needs some agriculture department to be the link from the winemaker to the grower. I'm giving instruction week by week to the grower what to do, how to prune, when to prune, how to trim, when to trim, how to sucker, when to sucker, how much to irrigate, and everything.
We see people drink more and more whites, and we think we need to give them good whites because 30 years ago
it was only
producing
basing.
mostly red, and the whites was like, garbage. And this is something that this winery saw like 10, 15 years ago. I mean, this is a hot climate region.
Right.
It's hot.
Who wants to drink red wines during the summer?
And then we started
lunch?
a revolution that today this winery produces 50% whites.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
I personally believe in whites. I think of myself, I drink more whites than red.
Me too.
And
Me
I
too.
think it's harder to make good whites and good reds.
There's no place to hide.
Exactly. So this is a Viognier, 17 vintage. Like I said, I'm a person of whites, and I love Viognier. It's a hard grape to grow, it's a hard grape to vinify, but I think we can do great stuff with that.
Yeah, this is like Or's baby. He forced me to plant some 10 dunam of Viognier, so I decided to put it at a high altitude in Golan Heights, like 1,000 meters above sea level. And the variety, I didn't know how to deal with this variety. It's a beast.
I care less about the aroma. This is not for aroma. This is a wine for texture, mouthfeel, and I think it can age. I know it can age.
And yet, in a blind, I would, no way I'm Viognier, sorry.
Yeah.
There's notes there, but in the mouth, it's beautiful. It's a complete surprise. This has so much more middle palate and finish, I would have never thought. It's actually, that's
It's
where
elegant.
it's the strong suit, really is. It's elegant.
Yeah.
Probably the best Viognier I've ever had.
All over the world, if you look at agriculture crops, the vines for wine, it's the only crops that you grow under stress condition, which the grower don't understand. Why do you need to make the vine to be so thirsty for water? Why do you need to make the vine to be under stress? I can speak this both language, the winemaker language and the grower language, and that's what I'm doing. I'm translate to the winemaker what's the grower wants, and I'm translate the grower what the winemaker wants. Oh, now my baby, from Or's baby to my baby.
So how long on this skin contact? 6, 8 hours?
It's only 2 hours.
Oof, that's during lunch. Make the press, eat lunch, done, pull it out.
Exactly.
So this is a rosé 18 vintage made of Barbera, 100%. We planted Barbera as part of our experiments with different varietals. But then when we checked it out during the ripening season, you see that the acid is so high and strong, and we thought it's gonna fit great for rosé wine. And it's just amazing.
It's really beautiful. This is almost ripe melon flesh.
You know, in Israel, we are a hot climate, and when the ripening process began, the acidity is just running away and the sugar running away, and we needed some variety that can hold it. And Barbera is the classic variety to hold acidity.
All the winemakers, all the viticulturists in Israel are very professionals. They all study abroad in the best universities, worked in Europe, in the States, in Australia, in South Africa. So we have a lot of experience, and now we are trying to build something new here. But we need to find our varietals that we can be the best in, because we are trying to be the best.
Well, folks, that sure was fun. Another box I can check off the list of places I've heard so much about and wanted to explore. It's a really young food and wine scene here, but vibrant and full of potential. Mike Colameco's Real Food is brought to you by the continuous, generous support of the following underwriters.
Extra virgin olive oil from Colavita, an Italian family brand.
Rachel Ray's signature specialty food line, designed for preparing meals at home.